Hey guys, I'm going to try and attempt to explain to you and go through what leg drive is all about in the bench press. Okay, the basics of the leg drive and what it means. Because a lot of times people get a little bit confused about what leg drive actually is. So the bench press requires you to use your legs to stabilize yourself and give yourself more drive in and more strength in the actual press itself. Okay, so a lot of times you see people who have just loose feet during the bench press, where literally during the bench the feet is just moving all the time. So kind of like that, they're just tap dancing and feet are all over the place. It's not really stuck in place. It's not cemented into the ground and doing anything. So what you want to do is you really want to use your feet to staple yourself to the bench. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So essentially what you're doing is when you put your feet on the ground, you want to fulfill two purposes. One is the feet being here and here. So this is one point on the ground, and this is one point that you have on the ground, and your shoulders are another point you have in contact with the surface. So you've created yourself a tripod, okay, essentially. Now, the purpose of the feet is to firstly prevent you from rotating this way, like rocking from side to side, okay? It's also intended to push you this way, okay? So what you are actually doing, quite literally, is you are doing a leg extension. So you're pushing your legs this way. You're pushing this way. You're pushing the ground that way so that you can go that way, okay? All of your, or as much of your weight as possible should be on the back of your neck, on your traps, okay? This area here should not be in contact with the bench press, with the bench pad, okay? And obviously, because the rules indicate and state, your butt has to be in touch with the bench as well, okay? So with that in mind, let's have a look at the video. I'll let it run. There's a couple of things to run through. So see how I am sliding up. Let's do that again. See this part, how I am sliding up. Okay. Now, obviously, when you start the bench, you're not going to slide up because you've got, weight in your hands. And whatever weight you've got there staples you to the bench. Okay. So here's further sort of demonstration. So right now, what you're looking at there is, in that moment, I'm actually pushing this way against the ground. I'm doing like a leg extension, okay? I'm trying to extend my knee out this way, okay? But obviously, because I'm pressing hard into the ground and I'm stapled here, it's not gonna happen. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking some of the bar weight in my hand, okay? So that bar weight pushes down on me. That staples my shoulder to the bench, yeah? Now, if this is a block here, so basically I've blocked myself from sliding. Once I've blocked myself from sliding by having weight in my hand, when I extend my knees, when I try to anyway, when I try to do a leg extension against the ground, what will happen is you will see my body go from kind of flat to being a bit more rounded, right? So have a look. I am not lifting my butt. I'm not trying to lift my butt. All I'm doing is this is my leg. I'm trying to just extend my leg. I'm trying to do a leg extension. I'm trying to extend my knee. That's it. I'm just pressing against the ground to go this way. The byproduct is that you'll see a little bit of the butt lift, but not so much that it lifts completely off the bench and becomes an illegal bench. Just a little bit. But the main byproduct that you actually feel when you do this is you feel a lot of your weight go this way onto your traps. Okay? So have a look again. So right now I've got weight in my hand. And right now you can see I'm actively have a look at this area. You'll see in a second that it sort of flexes and stays there. That is leg drive. I'm engaging leg drive. So I'm actively at that point, actively doing a leg extension against the ground and pushing my weight onto my traps. Okay, have a look. It's right. It's there. It's very, very subtle. Just have a look at here. You'll see it from being relaxed to kind of engaging and activating. There. Okay. Right now, there's currently actively leg drive being engaged. It doesn't look like there is, and it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to look like this crazy, really, I don't know, really extravagant or really powerful sort of thing. Everybody's different, and the weight on the bar will also influence how it looks, right? But it's engaged from the beginning. Now, you develop your own knack over time. Some people have it a little bit less whilst they have the bar and the bar is coming down, and they really engage and jolt and really engage leg drive as they press up off the chest. That's just something you'll develop over time as your own knack. You figure out what works for you. So some people will semi-engage it on the way down here and then really engage it as they push back up here. Okay? I like to kind of have it almost on the whole time. Okay? Everyone is different. I recommend that you also do the same to begin with. And then if you want to change things over time and have your own knack, then you can. So, another thing to consider is other federations where you are allowed to not have your feet flat on the ground. So, federations like the GPC, you don't have to have your feet flat on the ground. You can be on your toes. So, the same thing applies. Typically speaking, you will have your feet underneath you more, right? Like here, like pictured here. You'll be on your toes because you're allowed to, and you'll have your feet further back. But and this is a good example to demonstrate what leg press looks like, even for when you're benching with a flat foot. What you're doing is you're actively pushing your heel towards the ground. You're trying to touch your heel to the ground, even though it's not going to happen, because obviously you don't have that kind of a flexibility in your ankle. But what you're trying to do is you're actively trying to push your heels into the ground. And in doing so, you do the same. You have the same effect where you create a tremendous amount of force going towards your traps and staying there. This keeps your ribcage or your chest high, right? Your ribcage high, because this is kind of going to be the touch point. And you don't ever want this ribcage to collapse. Doesn't matter whether you're benching with your block on your toes like this or flat. Doesn't matter what type of bench you're doing. Your bench must stay high, must stay elevated. In fact, how you want to think about it is, as the bar is coming down, you want to get your chest to go up to meet it halfway, okay? And when the bar touches the chest, you never want the chest to collapse out. So if this is the starting point of the chest, you don't want it to go from here to a lower position, which a lot of people do. It's a common mistake. So let's have a look, continue with this. So I'm just getting the feet in position, going to get nice and tight. See how I'm pushing down here with the heels? That's leg drive, okay? You can use that same analogy for benching with your flat feet, right? When I'm talking about leg drive with flat feet, what you're seeing is basically the same thing. I'm engaging, I'm kind of pressing the heel to the ground and pushing the earth that way. so I can go this way onto my traps and I can keep my chest high. Let's go back forward. So your intention, if you're going to be benching with on your toes, is to get that heel to the ground as much as possible, all the time, like that. The entire time, you're pushing it down and you're pushing back. Now, a few other things is a couple other things about your actual foot position. So some people will have their set up here, their feet really close together and like, you know, kind of in this position. Some people will have it kind of here, right? Some people in between, some people really wide, right? That all doesn't matter. That's not really relevant. So for me, I feel more comfortable here. People I coach, they feel more comfortable here. Literally like that. There's a lot of people feel comfortable right there. I can't bench for the life of me like that. I feel like I get no leverages from my legs, no power. I feel much better here. This is the optimal position for me. Slightly wide and more towards me. Generally speaking, if you look at yourself from the side, the level of your knee, generally speaking, the level of your knee should be below the level of your hip. Okay. The lower, typically speaking, the lower the better. Okay, and you can see a good example of that when you do it on your toes. So see in this example here, you can see that like my knee, right, is much lower than my hip, and typically this creates better leg drive and better wedging into position. So that's all you need to know about benching setup and leg drive. When we talk about leg drive in the bench, that's what you need to just know to begin with. Obviously, there's more intricacies as you go on, but that's something that you develop as you go. That's something that comes. You develop a knack for your own technique, for how you like to do things. But to begin with, that's what you need to think about when you talk about leg drive, when you talk about setting up in the bench and where your legs go and what you're supposed to do. The legs are supposed to cement you. You're actually supposed to push them into the ground and push the ground away. It's not supposed to just kind of like be dead weight on the ground, right? Its purpose is to get you onto your traps as much as possible whilst keeping the butt on the bench so that you can keep your chest up and your rib cage really high. And so that you can also prevent yourself from rocking side to side. Okay, you create yourself total stability in the position that you're in, and when you have obviously a stable surface that you're pressing off of, then you can bench more. Okay, that is the purpose of the leg drive. Don't overcomplicate it any more than that for yourself to begin with. That's all you need to focus on. Just have it engaged. So that no part of your body is ever lax or disengaged in the bench press. You have to think of these as legs to a table. They're supposed to be there, pushing the table onto this stability point the whole time. And that's what leg drive is all about. I hope that helps out, guys. Any questions, just let me know.